So let's talk about the YouTube algorithm, and I'm going to give you 5 things that are going to help you better rank your videos and understand what the YouTube algorithm looks for when it's ranking videos on the platform related to other similar videos, right? So how can you outdo those other videos? Focus on these 5 things. First and foremost is watch time, okay? So typically, the longer videos, just like any other platform, the longer videos, the longer you can keep someone on a piece of content, whether that's Instagram with a picture, whether that's YouTube with a video, or whether that's anywhere, the longer you keep someone on the video or the piece of content, the better for you, okay? So that being said, longer videos do tend to do better most of the time than shorter videos. Now, I found a sweet spot for me, and I've seen this across the board, and I think that this works for a number of reasons, but I'll outline a few for you here in a second, is 10 minutes and 1 second to 19 minutes and 59 seconds. Why is that? Why do you think? Now, I believe that because 10 minutes, anything over 10 minutes, you can monetize with multiple ads, okay? And at the end of the day, YouTube is a business, okay? So YouTube tends to suggest, and this has not been proven, they're never going to admit it, but YouTube tends to suggest other videos that have more ads on them, obviously, and have watch time and audience retention. So if you're putting like an ad every couple seconds, that's obviously not going to keep the audience engaged and retain them on the video. So YouTube's not going to suggest that, right? But if you can nail the watch time and you can add multiple ad breaks in your video, maybe on a 10-minute video, you add one in the middle, right? One in the beginning and one at the end, which obviously the one always comes in the beginning. You can add the one at the end inside your Creator Studio on that video, and then maybe you add one in the middle at like 5 or 6 minutes. That's potentially going to do a lot better than a video that's 10 minutes and doesn't have any other ad breaks except the one in the beginning. That's what I'm trying to say, okay? So typically the best watch time, in my opinion, is 10 minutes and 1 second so that you can monetize those long videos. Even if you're not monetized yet, you will be able to do that in the future. So shoot for 10 minutes and 1 second. And below 1959, because there's something about that 20 number that people, it's kind of like that law of, death by 1,000 cuts. Most people, unless you've really built up a brand equity with them, there's some people where this doesn't apply, but most people are not going to want to watch a 20+ minute video, or they won't watch that currently. So if they see it, they won't click it and start watching it, simply because they're not going full-heartedly into it, saying, I want to invest 20 minutes into this video that I know nothing about, right? So typically speaking, they're either going to ignore that or they're going to add it to watch later and then probably never get around to watching it and delete it later. So if you can keep it between that sweet spot, you're going to do the 2 of the best things, right? So you're going to get more ad revenue, obviously, because you're going to have longer videos, and longer videos tend to do better on the platform, but you're also going to keep it with it under 20 minutes, so more people will be more inclined to click it and not feel like they're investing 20 minutes into their time, right? Because if you keep somebody on with like short videos, it's the same thing with like Netflix or YouTube or Instagram, right? Or any of these, TikTok, for example, right? It's death by 1,000 cuts. You keep consuming 60-second videos on TikTok, for example, or, pictures on Instagram. It doesn't seem like it's a lot when you chunk it in one by one. But as you add them up, you're going to spend a lot more time on that platform, death by 1,000 cut-wise, than you would investing an hour into a potential YouTube video. The whole key here is don't go too far out of the way with it. That's what I'm trying to say. Stay below 20 minutes, but also try to go above 10 if you can. Now, one thing I will say about this is don't sacrifice quality for length, okay? To give you an example, a 2-minute video, so don't stretch a video on purpose just to try to get it to 10 minutes. It's just something to potentially shoot for, okay? It's just something to remember and keep in mind. Don't sacrifice the quality for the length. A 2-minute video with an average watch time of 1:30, because it's good and relevant and keeps people engaged, will do a lot better than a 20-minute video with an average watch time of 1 minute, okay? So longer videos don't always do better, but they will over time typically tend to perform better because there's potentially more to watch in that video, hence why you're going to accumulate more watch time, okay? So hope that helps. That's number 1. Number 2 is click-through rate. Now, what is click-through rate? Click-through rate is how often people click on your thumbnails compared to other potential similar thumbnails that they're potentially being suggested to, right? So how click-through rate works is, let's say your thumbnail is going up against another thumbnail that's very, very similar. You've made a similar video to another content creator, and both of those tend to get suggested. YouTube's going to test this out and see how many, maybe it's 100 people, maybe it's 1,000, maybe it's 10, right? they're going to see who clicks on which thumbnail more. That's click-through rate, right? And maybe your thumbnail beats out this thumbnail, so this drops down to the bottom of the algorithm and doesn't get suggested as much anymore. But then it goes up against another one, right? It goes up against thumbnail C instead of thumbnail B. And maybe you beat out that one, but maybe you lose to the next one, thumbnail D, right? So click-through rate is huge, and one of the best ways that you can improve your click-through rate is better thumbnails, right? Improve your thumbnails. It's one of the most overlooked things on all of YouTube. People spend, and I don't get it. I still make, garbage thumbnails here and there because I rush them. But one of the things you can do to this, and I'll talk about that here in the next segment in a second, is create your thumbnails and your titles first. So that way you're not rushing to and excited to get the video out. You're literally going to create the thumbnail and you'll have it ready when the video airs. And plus, your video and your thumbnail will be relevant to the video, as opposed to if you created the video first and then try to make a thumbnail afterward. You might not find the right pictures, you might not find the right things, so just keep that in mind, okay? Click-through rate, improve your thumbnails, and two of the best ways to do this is Photoshop and Canva. Now, Photoshop, I think, is $9.99 a month or $19.99 a month. I don't remember how much I pay for it. Highly recommend Photoshop. It's super, super crucial for creating good thumbnails, but if you're just looking for something free to create them in the meantime, Canva is a free software. It's a website you can go to, and you can make thumbnails for free, okay? So watch time and click-through rate. The next factor is audience retention. So you want to capture your audience attention right away. And it's been said you have about 3 to 10 seconds. I would say 20 seconds is above the full, you don't have 20 seconds. Some people have said that. I would say you probably realistically have about 3 to 10 seconds max. So keep that in mind, right? YouTube is a competitive place. So make sure that you have a compelling hook in the beginning of your video that's going to capture people's attention and want to make them continue to watch the video, right? If you don't, people will just click off your video to another video because they're constantly, the way that the algorithm's set up and the way that the software is set up, doesn't matter if you're watching on desktop or if they're watching on mobile, they're constantly being suggested other videos on the side or below the video as they're scrolling, right? So if you don't do this, people will just click off to another video if you don't captivate them and you don't capture their attention, okay? So one of the ways, like I just said, is you can do this by improve your audience retention and your watch time and your click-through rate, obviously, by creating your thumbnails and your titles first. That's going to keep your video relevant. It's going to give you, it's kind of reverse engineering and working backwards. Works great. If you don't believe me, just try it 1 or 2 times. You will see just how much better your thumbnails and your videos turn out because they'll be related, right? So what I'm trying to say here is they're going to see the thumbnail, right? And then they're going to click on the video, and your video is actually going to be exactly what they intended to get, right? By clicking on that thumbnail, and you're going to convert and retain a lot more of the audience, as opposed to if you created a video, then created a thumbnail afterward that you thought looked good, but they might have clicked on that video because they saw the thumbnail and realized that the video wasn't necessarily 100% match of the thumbnail, right? So try creating your thumbnails and your titles first. Huge game changer, major YouTube creator hack, okay? Now, the next thing is to relate to them and their interests. Pretty self-explanatory. Talk about what they want, not what you want. Tell them immediately why they should care, what they'll get out of watching, right? Make sure that they know that they're in the right place and that the video that they clicked on is exactly what they're getting, exactly what they're about to get, right? Reiterate that point and captivate them. Audience retention is the third thing. Number 4 and 5 are engagement and session starts and session time, okay? Engagement, pretty self-explanatory. That's your likes, your comments, your dislikes. Yes, even dislikes help your video, assuming you don't have more dislikes than your likes, okay? Pretty self-explanatory. We all know that. They don't matter as much as they used to, but they do still matter, okay? And one of the things that a lot of people overlook is session start times and session time. So session start times is when you bring somebody to YouTube or somebody clicks on your video from an outside source, or they come to YouTube and they get suggested your video and they hop onto your content. That starts the session, right? Now your session time is how long, there's 2 session times, right? How long you keep them engaged on your content and your videos, 1 session time. How long you keep them engaged on YouTube in general from starting on one of your videos, even if they go to other videos, is the 2nd session time. They both matter, session starts and session time, okay? So what you want to do is you want to bring people to YouTube and you want to keep them there. That doesn't mean that you cannot link off. It doesn't mean that you can't promote your Instagram. It doesn't mean that you can't promote your other social media. It doesn't mean that you can't sell a product and link it in the description. But just keep that in mind. The more you keep people on YouTube and continuously keep them on the platform and bringing them back to YouTube, the more YouTube will reward you. They've literally said countless times, it's right from the terms of service, YouTube rewards creators that keep viewers on the platform longer. Period. Self-explanatory, okay? So your main goal should be, overall to just keep them on YouTube and keep them watching longer. Ideally, that's your videos, but even if it's not, just keep them on YouTube. Now, some of the most typical ways that you can do this that are going to help you: utilize cards, utilize playlists, utilize linking related videos that might interest them, and utilize end screens. But that's, to recap, that's the 5 things that are the most important that YouTube looks for when ranking your videos against other related videos in the YouTube algorithm.